Well, good morning, everybody. Rob Travels with Dottie here, and it is 8:58 a.m. on Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. And 24 hours from now, I'll be in the air on my way to New York City. I have a 6 a.m. flight tomorrow morning from Roswell, New Mexico to Dallas-Fort Worth, from there to LaGuardia, and I'm going to be with my brothers and my sisters and my niece. I'm very excited about that for a couple of days. I'll be back in here driving in this driveway midnight on Saturday. So that's a whirlwind trip. I'm excited about it. And you're going to see every step of it. You're going to see videos on New York, getting to New York City, being in New York City, and coming home from New York City. It's going to be video after video after video until you're probably sick of it. So today, here's what I thought I would do. It's been a while since I've talked about the feedback that I get through the comments, and I thought we would just do that today. Let's sort by newest first. So I had a video, what happens when cats hate travel days? So I had to take George to the vet. I had took Dottie and George to the vet, and the main reason, well, two reasons for taking George. George needed a couple vaccinations, and I needed to get advice and prescription for real travel days, like when I go to Quartzsite on November 30th, it'd be a 2-day trip, because George has such extreme anxiety. It's not, I found out from the vet, it's not motion sickness, it's anxiety. He just lets loose front and back end and is absolutely terrified and miserable, which breaks my heart. You know what? Hang on a second. What is he doing? I'm turning on my TV. Only because in a minute it'll flick over to a screensaver, I believe. I don't know why every time it goes on, it like goes blank for a few seconds. And it's something about the handshake on the HDMI. I don't know exactly what it is, but it only happens when I turn it on. And that'll change to like a screensaver. Okay. Where was I? Oh, so George really doesn't like leaving home. He loves the little casita. He loves the little trailer, but getting in the truck, George is not, or if the trailer moves, George is really upset about that. And if you can see, well, there's healed up, but there's a lot of marks from the battle I had with George getting him into the little cage that I needed to take him into the vet. It works better if they just reach into the cage to do the exam and everything, and that's what happened. So I'm repeating all that only because this comment is about that. Adele Sonora says, I've taken my two cats once so far in the 28-foot Class C. I let them loose to see if they could find their way to comfort. One got under the sofa. The other found a way to a small top space above the slide out. For next time, I've taped a piece of cardboard across that space because it made me nervous with him up there in case it shifted or something. I'll do an overnighter. Hopefully they'll do okay. Then we'll hit the road to Quartzsite. These are 2 outdoor cats by day on 25 acres. How wonderful for them, huh? For now, one can get on the barn roof in 2 leaps. Am I crazy to plan on taking them on a motorhome and pray my kitties will adjust? Next time I'll try to light my light therapy patches that I have a calming effect on them and me too. So we'll see, fingers crossed. I think you're going to do great. because you've taken them on you've ridden them around, and all they did was sort of hide in a couple little places, which is totally normal behavior for a well-adjusted cat, and not the behavior of like George, who just freaks out. So the good news is your cats aren't freaking out. They'll probably do just fine and adapt just fine. Okay, so I released a video this morning that mostly got positive feedback. There's one I'm going to read you that the video is about the misinformation that I think is spread on social media about Quartzsite, and I want to directly address those things in the video. And one of the commenters went right into the negative stuff, and we had a bit of a back and forth. So hopefully it's still there. Sometimes when people get in the back and forth, they delete their video. So, I mean, they delete their comments, so that might have happened. But the most recent one is from Renee Slater. Says, I was shocked when I saw the meat at the market. Great. Everything's right there in queue. I never felt unsafe. We're going to miss it this year. Oh, I didn't realize you weren't going to go this year. But I'm glad she had a good experience there. Here's a good. Oh, it's the same person from Adele. Adele, okay, Adele. We're going to read two of your comments because I want to. Hopefully, you're watching this because I want to talk. I did respond to your comment here, but I want to go into a little bit more depth on camera. Thanks for another interesting video. I'm coming to Quartzsite in December, my first time. You said elsewhere it's okay to be nervous. It is okay to be nervous. Okay, so I am. I'll be in a 28-foot Class C. Based on things you said, I'm thinking La Posa South. I wouldn't know anyone, but I want to be around people and meet people. Would that be a good area to start? I'm also wondering, to get into town, is it doable to drive and park the RV for propane, laundry, food, etc.? I could get an e-bike, I suppose. Isn't it 3 miles or so into town? Thanks for all you do. I'm glad your hip replacement went well. Wow, good for you. Okay. I'll tell you what I said. I said there are 4 adjacent LTVAs south of town. First 2 actually abut town, so it's right there. The other 2, as you say, about 3 miles away. And I'm so glad that I'm including this because she asked so much more than that, and I didn't give her a thorough answer. I'm going to try to address everything. One is, I've already said, yeah, it's totally. I was nervous. I was nervous as all get out when the first time I went to Quartzsite, so that's totally normal. La Posa South is probably the most popular. I'm hesitating a little bit because I don't know that to be true. It's most popular among sort of the crowd I run with, the Nomads. I think it's popular for that reason. And the other reason is there are 4 areas, but La Posa South is the one that has the water that you can fill up in water, and it has the dump stations. The other 3, you have to travel from those other 3 to La Posa South to like go to the dump station or get fresh water. So that's why a lot of people, I think that's probably fair to say that's the main reason. And that is 3 miles. Now, let's talk about getting into town. Yes, you can ride an e-bike into town, but I think it's very uncomfortable. There are a couple of ways to go. You certainly don't want to go on the edge of the highway. It's far too dangerous. There is a pathway under the power lines that goes all the way into town. It's very rough. It's in 3 miles is a long way unless you have a very comfortable big e-bike with big shocks and fat tires. There's also, if you cross the street into the opposite LTVA, there's a road that is less rough and much further from the road that goes north to south, and it actually has a name. It's called Old Yuma Road, and I've done that. It takes a while, and it's not convenient. I think you're going to find, if you're going to stay in La Posa South, and I'm assuming you're not towing a car, so you've got your Class C, I think that you're going to need to bring your rig into town. Now, how convenient is it to bring your rig into town? Well, if you're going to grocery shop and things like that, I suggest you do it early in the morning, because you, especially in December and January, do it early in the morning. So you can easily find spaces to park in parking lots. Midday, December and January, it's very crowded. If you're stressed driving in a lot of traffic, there's going to be traffic jams and all kinds of things. I would say from around December 15th through the end of January, it's very crowded like that. So I want you to keep that in mind. The alternative is you can park in the LTVAs that are La Posa North and La Posa West. Both are up against right there in town, and you can easily, if you park near the border of town on the most northern reaches of either one of those areas, you're going to be right into town. Especially in La Posa West. Yeah, it's going to be La Posa West. The border right there by the road is, you walk in and there's the big tent and there's Tyson Wells and all that activity. The negative is when you go to dump and you go to get water, you're going to have to drive 2 or 3 miles down the road to your permit will still be good. Your permit's good for all the LTVAs, but you'll have to drive down to La Posa South. Meeting people is easier. This is the little bit more complicated answer. Meeting people is, it takes a little effort. If you don't talk to people or look at them and you stay in your rig, you probably aren't going to benefit that much from the social aspects. If you look at people and at least say hi and smile, people that are camped around you, and even here's the big secret. It's a super secret. Hardly anyone on the planet knows about this really secret trick. You walk up to someone and you smile and you stick your hand out and say, "Hi, my name is Rob." Crazy, huh? Well, it works. It's respectful. It's flattering. You're going to get some people that aren't going to react well to that. That's 1%. But that's a conversation opener. And you know what? If you can't think of anything to say to, when you're camping out in the desert and you can't think of anything to say to an RVer, ask them about their rig. They will talk. The people love talking about their rigs. Hey, what kind of rig is that? Hey, how long have you had that? Hey, what year is that? How do you do this? How do you do that? You can engage in a conversation for an hour easily without you having to really put forth any significant effort. Just ask them about their RV. Ask them where they're from. There's so many conversation openers. Let's see. Oh, and she says the first 2 LTVAs very near town, and I would say yes. I'm typing an answer to her. So yes, and I'm going to reply to her and say, be sure to watch the video to be released on Thursday morning, the 16th, because I talk about you and your questions quite a bit. So, Adele, a lot of this video is about you. And I'm grateful for that, because you're asking questions, the exact questions that so many people have. And you're getting in there and you're asking them. And believe me, there are going to be people in this video that are going to jump in the comments and go, "Thank you, Adele, for asking those questions. That's exactly what I wanted to ask." Jack Adventure says there's 3,500 long-term and 5,600 short-term LTVA permits issued in 2024. And I thanked him for that. because I think, I said it's 2,500 population, and they say 1 million people visit, but that's not 1 million campers. And I guessed that about 10 times the number of people, or 25,000, are probably consistently camping during the winter season. And his number is square with that, because his numbers are, if you add them up, are about 9,000, right? And then we have 50, I think it's 52 RV parks in town. Plus, he's not counting the, in those stats, the BLM areas all around that a big proportion of the boondockers camp in because they're free. They're 14-day areas. So certainly 25,000 is a really good estimate. And thanks so much, Jack, for getting that data that supports what I'm saying. All right, so here's the back and forth I had, and this is the kind of comment I'm sort of wanting to engage with and refute. And this is on today's video titled "Ridiculous Things They Say About Quartzsite." One of them is, "Oh, it's dangerous. You're going to get robbed." Blah blah blah. And I won't bore you with my take on it. My take is it's a very low-risk crime area. Based on the population, your odds of being a victim of crime are very, very low. But this guy, Backyard Zoo, says, depends on where you are in town and camping. If you have that element around you, you will get robbed. I have been several years and have never felt safe leaving anything out in camp when driving into town. The rough element is everywhere around town. You'll see them. And I'm just going to go through the back and forth. And I said, it sounds like being judgmental more than being cautious. And I mean that. His words were judgmental. He is looking at people and saying, there's a rough element everywhere. So he's looking at people and saying, that's a rough element. That's a risk for me. That looks like a criminal. He says, no, it sounds like a guy who grew up in a very rough area and has a little better sense of his surroundings than you do. And I said, and he also says, then I said, I will admit, you may be right. I would prefer that you take your comments and viewership to another channel. Simple request. He didn't take me up on that, because he came back and says, you should be honest about all the homeless and drug addicted all through Quartzsite. That is the element I'm speaking of. And you know as well as I do, they are there. All right. I have a stronger response. They are not elements. They are people. Painting them as criminal is just plain unkind. This is precisely why I'm asking you to move on, please. And Renee Slater jumps in, thank you, Renee, and says, I've never worried about leaving my stuff out. And I said, thank you, Renee. I'm not saying there's no crime. Never said that. What I'm trying to say to this gentleman is because someone looks sketchy to him does not mean they're criminals. I understand theft does happen. In 4 years, I've had nothing taken, and no one I know has had a theft from their site when they've been away from it. And I need to edit that because there's a typo. It's spelling site. Because I do, I record and they translate, and it needs to be SITE, not SIGHT. And I think he hasn't responded to that, so I think he might be done with the debate. But I feel pretty strongly about this. In my career as a licensed counselor and working on emergency mental health and working in the streets outside Washington, D.C., in Northern Virginia, I have quite a bit of experience with people that are experiencing homelessness. And I can, the statistics will bear me out. Homeless populations are far more to be victims of crime than to be perpetrators of crime. And in there are people that are homeless because of addiction issues, mental health issues, and sometimes just personal preference. It's the lifestyle that certain people want. And that's hard to believe, but it's true. right? So if you look at crime statistics, there's a high rate of homeless being charged with crimes. That's very misleading because the big chunk of that are crimes that are sort of related to being homeless, like loitering and trespassing, drinking in public, things of that nature that people that live in homes don't usually experience. And because someone is holding a sign looking for money, and I think there, the elements that he's talking about that you're going to see in Quartzsite is outside McDonald's, there's usually a guy with a dog or something saying, help, need food, something like that. And around like the Dollar General stores and places, there are sort of younger people that look unkempt, and I think that's what he just would describe as being sketchy. And I've had the experience where, and I can understand they could look a little intimidating, but I've had circumstances where I've been in town and I've engaged folks of that description in conversation and been really surprised at what their story was and what they were doing, and I was completely off base in what I was thinking. So now, do I leave like my expensive generator out so people can grab it when I go into town? No, I have I lock it to a big thick cable. I lock it to my rig, and I lock anything that I consider valuable that I leave outside. It's locked to my rig. So I'm not saying it's, a paradise where there's never any crime. I take away any temptation that may be out there, as I would do anywhere. This is not a Quartzsite issue. This is an issue anywhere where you're going to leave stuff that you own out so people can just pick it up and grab it. Quartzsite, I'll tell you this. Based on the statistics, your likelihood on the base statistics, which is based on crime per population, and the population is 2,500, there's a 3% chance of being the victim of a crime. If you account for the thousands of people that come in, like when the population increases by 10 times from 2,500 to 25,000, then your odds go down proportionally. So instead of having a 3% chance, you're more likely to have less than a 1% chance, like a 1/3 of 1%. So you have a 99.7% chance of not being a victim of crime. I'll take those odds. How about you? All right. Ken Gray says, I think it was last year where Glorious Life on Wheels, she's a YouTuber, had her camp burgled. And I don't think he wants me to read this whole thing because he has opinions about what maybe should or shouldn't have happened and being cautious. And I agree with him. And it's a good example of if you have expensive things and you leave them out and walk away from your camp, no matter where you are, you're kind of inviting theft. So, like I said, I lock up my expensive things that are big. If I have small expensive things, I just don't leave them outside. I mean, why would I do that? And he's trying to say, his point was the same as mine. Be aware and don't do silly things with your stuff. Don't invite thievery by leaving stuff out. I mean, the extreme example is if I took my wallet and I just put it on the sidewalk and walked away, half the time someone's going to pick it up and it's going to get returned to me, and half the time they're going to steal it. I don't know if it's half and half. I hope it's not. I hope 90% of the time people would turn it in or try to contact me and 10% would steal it. That's my belief. I have no basis for that. Just my hope. Let's see. This was on what happens on when cats hate travel days. I sang the old Burger King song. Hold the pickles, hold the lettuce, special orders don't upset us. All that we ask is that you have it your way. That was a big deal. And I thought it was 20 years ago. And Diana says, you were just a smidge off when you said that special orders jingle had to be 20, 30 years old. Yes, it was 1974. Whoops. It was, is that 50 years ago? Get out of here. Get out. 50 years. 1974 was 50 years ago? Get out. That can't be true. And it was. And it was, McDonald's was just getting big. And Burger King was trying to compete. And they were pretty close back then. I think they were a lot closer than you would imagine. And Burger King wanted to make themselves different. So they realized that, this production thing in McDonald's, they weren't inviting special orders, right? I don't know that they were refusing special orders, but it's just not, I remember going to McDonald's when I was a kid. It's not something that you considered or did until Burger King came along and said, order it and do it. And I think what was going on is like during lunchtime, McDonald's was making their stuff ahead of time. That's what it was. So if I went into McDonald's and ordered a Big Mac, they just turned around and grabbed a fresh Big Mac off the rack. They didn't make them to order, as I believe they do now. But Burger King was saying, nope, we're not going to just grab a generic one off. You tell us how you want it. You tell us. Have it your way. Let's see. As a retired kitty vet, this is Gene. And I always love comments like this. You talk when you have doctors, veterinarians that sort of jump in and say, hey, these are my thoughts. I like people that have credentials jumping in. And poor George, I'm a retired kitty vet. Gabapentin is a much better choice for cat anxiety. Acepromazine doesn't work that well, and not only are they still scared, but they feel weird too. Not many vets use it anymore. And I got to tell you, Gene, that's precisely what my new vet said. The old vet gave the acepromazine, and what my vet said is what you're saying. It appears to work because she said it's the equivalent of putting your cat in a straitjacket. They appear common, but inside they're still anxious. So it appears to be working, but it's far more effective to use gabapentin because when it works, it actually not just sedates, but actually calms the anxiety. So I'm really looking forward to trying that. And Patty says you should rewatch the part of your video where you pull into the vet, try your burger, and chat for a bit. The whole time, poor George is looking completely zoned out on the left-hand side of the screen. Poor little guy. Couldn't help but giggle, though. Hope he's doing well now that the meds wore off. Actually, for that short trip, I didn't give him any meds, so he wasn't on meds. He was just freaked out. That's what that look was. How much time do we... Oh, we're almost at 30 minutes. They're almost 30 minutes. My video, pretty popular. You can live on $2,000 a month and still have financial freedom. There are a couple people that just had things to say, like this one guy says, I wish. In other words, he doesn't have $2,000 a month. Or, in my guess is, I said, many people with extra responsibilities cannot do that. I consider myself lucky because I didn't go into detail about this, but I was talking about my circumstances, my experience, the light of my own circumstances. I can live quite well and comfortably on $2,000 a month in this lifestyle. If I had aging parents, children that needed support, a spouse that needed support, or siblings that needed support, all that goes out the window. I understand that, but I really can't do a video for every circumstance. And also, there are people that, they don't have access to $2,000 a month. They may get a disability check that's $872 a month. And so they need to do something different. And there are different things that can be done. I have friends that live on less than $1,000 a month in this lifestyle, and they can do it, but not as I described it in this video at $2,000 a month. But many people can. The average Social Security retirement income in this country is right at about $2,000 a month. That's the average or median. Now, there are many people that fall below that. And my suggestion in the video was, pick up part-time work, maybe one day a week, so you can create whatever you fall short of that 2,000, work one day a week, and at the most, maybe 2 days a week, because, minimum wage is pretty good in a lot of states. Here in New Mexico, I believe it's $12. So you can. So let's talk about that for a minute. If I work, let's get a calculator out. If I work 8 hours, it's going to be $96, and I'm going to have to pay Social Security taxes and everything. So it's about $89 a day that's going to go into my pocket if I work one day a week, 8 hours, times 4 weeks. So that's an extra $357. So let's just call it $350 a month for one day of work. And if you work 2 days, it's going to be $700. And if you're going to work 3 days a week, it's, 3 days a week, 350 times 3 is going to be, that's $1,000 a month. So you can get really close to that 2,000. And don't worry about, other than the 7.5% Medicare and Social Security tax they're going to take out of your check, you won't have to pay income taxes because you're earning so little. So doable stuff. And I hesitate to go too off track of my situation because I'm no financial advisor. That's not my expertise. Let's see. I did get someone saying, hey, how can I get to pay you to be my online counselor? And sadly, I'm in retirement and I'm phasing out of that. So I have just a very small number of long-term clients. I'm not taking on new clients. Sorry about that, but they're great. There are great therapists out there. So if you think that that's going to benefit you, get on one of those online platforms. Teladoc, I think, is a good one. There's, if you have good insurance, Headway. There's, I think, there's just Google online counseling, and you'll see all these companies that do that. Let's see. I'm just seeing if there's anything else that. Let's see. So there are quite a few people that are espousing the benefits of gabapentin for anxiety for dogs and cats. and interestingly enough, it's not really a technically veterinarian approved medication. It's a human medication, I believe, used for neuropathy. But it's used off label for pets. Now, Kelly says the gabapentin, you can get it compounded into a flavored tablet. Your vet can order it from Wedgwood Pharmacy and then dissolve it in a tiny bit of tuna juice or even a tiny bit of meat baby food. You'll eat it right up. It was a total game changer for them, and I'll consider that. But the first line is going to be, I'm going to, it's a capsule. You take it apart, and I'm going to just sprinkle the powder over George's dried food, see if he's able to eat that, and then I'll go from there. I'll maybe try putting the powder in a pill pocket, see if that works. But last, I'm going to keep in mind this Wedgwood Pharmacy, a compounding pharmacy that'll do that for me. And thank you for that. That's a good suggestion. So here's an interesting, Rusty Cat says, just my gut instinct. If you have to ever choose which place to have your casita or life on the road, your rental friends will help you decide. That they're misunderstanding. The casita is next to a big pad for my RV that has full hookups. The casita is not designed for full-time living. There's no plumbing or anything in here. There's no bathroom. There's no kitchen. It's like a standalone living room with a porch. That's all this is, and air conditioning. This is not me getting off the road. This is me having a home base. I'm here 6 months out of the year, separated by summer. So here's my routine. 3 months in the spring here, 3 months in the summer in Eagle Nest, 3 months back here in the fall, 3 months in Quartzsite. That is a nomad. This just happens to be where I spend 6 months out of the year, a good solid legal residence for me that I enjoy immensely. And if I want to, and for some reason, if I don't want to travel, or I can't travel for health reasons or something, I can stay right here year round, no problem, very inexpensively. Just sort of the association cost that runs, $1,500 to $1,700 if I'm going to be here year round, plus the cost of electricity. And here we have one of the lowest electricity rates, less than 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And I have efficient appliances, so very inexpensive. I would say the worst it would ever be, I would be shocked if I ever got a $100 electric bill, even in the extreme heat of summer. I would say the average year round is going to be about $50 is my guess. So anyway, that is all I have for today. And I hope you enjoyed sort of this talking back and forth through the comments. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.